Namaste, yogis. This is Adrienne.
And Mia.
And we have a special guest today, Madison. Welcome.
Yay, thank you. I'm so excited.
Madison is a student of ours that we teach at a different studio in San Antonio. And we're just excited you're here and want to share your yoga story. Tell our listeners a little bit about yourself.
My name is Madison. I grew up in San Antonio, Texas, and I like to say I'm a jack of all trades. I like to dabble in everything, try everything. I'm very artistic, right-brained all the way. I love language, culture, dancing, people. I love people, meeting other people. And I was a competitive Irish dancer for about 10 years of my life, so that consumed majority of my life. And
wait, the Irish dancers are the ones with the really cool blonde wigs?
Yes.
So what is the origin of the blonde wig, by the way, just if you have a chance?
Yeah, of course. So I don't know too much lore.
Yeah.
But what I have heard is back in the day in Ireland when the girls were getting ready to go in the pub, they would just do the big ringlet curls and then go dancing and having fun in the bars. But then eventually you can't, not everybody's hair can like hold the curls. Right. So people just started wearing wigs. And when you go to competitions, the wigs, they're huge.
Yeah.
Huge. Or they're concise into a little bun too. So there's like different styles of curly wigs now at competitions.
That's insane. That's insane. I love watching the dances though. I mean, you have to have such coordination to be able to do that.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And then I remember someone told me the reason why nobody moves their arms is because I think dancing was illegal at one point in Ireland. And so the barn doors would swing open. So if you're looking at a person from the top half, their arms aren't moving, but from the bottom half, their legs are like dancing away. So that's the theory behind their arms not moving.
That's hysterical. I had no idea because it is a weird dance because they're like stiff on the top and then the whole bottom half's moving. Yeah. Okay, so keep going. I just needed to know that about the Irish dancers.
Yes. I have traveled a lot, and I think because I have traveled so much, that is what has made me appreciate language and culture so much. And my yoga journey started about a year ago, and it was kind of post-COVID. I dabbled in yoga a little bit during COVID, but not practicing it as much. I was like, I'll go through a flow or two that I saw on the internet, but post-COVID, I used it more as a recovery because I was doing so much strength training all the time. And it wasn't until this current year I started practicing and flowing way more consistently, like maybe 5 to 4 days a week.
So your first experience on the mat in a class situation, what was that like for you?
Oh my gosh, I was so nervous. I was so nervous because, when you go through listening and watching other people, it's super intimidating. If it's your first time and sometimes you don't know what you're signing up for. You're like, I don't know what a vinyasa is, but it's yoga. So I'm going to try it out.
True.
And so I just remember being super intimidated and trying to keep up. I'm like, oh my gosh, like we're already lunging and then we're on the floor.
Yeah, exactly. And you don't know the names of the poses. And so you're like, what am I doing? Where am I going? How can I find the flow? Right?
Exactly. And I'm just looking around at everybody, but they're all concentrated on breathing. And I'm like, how can I focus on breathing when I don't know what I'm doing?
I know. It's the hardest thing. And that's the most intimidating thing for people, right? Is walking into the studio and getting out of their heads of like looking good or being perfect or knowing what's coming next and just kind of going with it.
Totally.
Very cool.
I guess since coming to your mat for the first time and coming consistently, has it been a consistent practice or have you kind of dabbled in, dabbled out? What has that been like?
So coming back to my mat, I have been so consistent, super consistent, to the point where it's like, okay, I can't wait. Like my body craves it. My body wants me to go to yoga because I just love being on the mat, on the floor, listening, breathing. Such a meditative practice. And I think what brings me back every time is the fact that it gives me a chance to slow down. And I used to never have that at all, because being a dancer, it was always, you got to be at the top. You got to beat other people. You got to win. You have this like competitor athlete mindset. And when COVID happened, I retired. And when I retired, I was losing all purpose. I was like freaking out. I was like, okay, what do I do now? And so then I got into strength training, and then it was still like, you're not good enough. You're not good enough. You're not good enough. But then I started getting into yoga, and everyone's like, it's a journey. Take it as it is. Go through the practice, and that's when I feel safe. And so going to yoga makes me feel safe. It makes me feel comforted. And that's what brings me back every time.
I was going to imagine that probably speaks a lot to what has changed, right, in your life. So can you tell us more about that? Like, how has yoga changed your life?
Well, it's definitely helped me have more gratitude, like an outward perspective. My outward perspective has completely changed. My inward self has changed as well, because I feel like I can take my time with things. I don't necessarily have to explain myself to everybody. I feel like everything, I've learned a lot of patience. Patience is the biggest thing, because, you know, you're going to fall. Start again. You guys always say that, you know, start again, just get back up. It's okay. Yeah. And so that follows into my everyday life, because I'm like, it's okay. You can just start again. Don't worry about it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, and I think too, like going from, you know, strength training and pushing your body so hard, especially young, you're not told that effort, ease, balance, right? You're not taught that it's okay to take shavasana, right?
Yes.
Or to meditate. Like that should be part of competitors. You know, can you imagine?
Oh my gosh. I think about that all the time. I think about, if I would have had yoga practice while I was dancing, I probably would have been in such a better headspace. I probably wouldn't have been so hard on myself. And I'd honestly probably be a better dancer, because you learn so much strength and core and flexibility. Probably would have enhanced my dancing so much more. Yeah,
totally. And then how did you feel that you were as a dancer? Like, were you super hard on yourself all the time?
Super hard on myself. Because also my dance school that I went to, everybody was really good. Everyone was super good. So, and I have a very competitive mindset. And I'm always like, I want to be best. I want to be the best. I want to reach my goals. I want to make my goals happen. But then there was a plateau that I reached, and I just kept hitting this wall. And I was like, why? Oh, it's okay. I'll get back up and I'll do it. But why am I hitting it? And then I would just get super mad at myself. But, you know, thanks to yoga and everything that I've experienced the past year, I feel like I've learned to tell myself, it's okay that you're not where you want to be at this moment. You'll get there. Just take your time and go with the flow.
What has that been like? Like that conversation with yourself? When you say it, it sounds easy.
Yeah.
Is it easy, or, you know, what is that back and forth for yourself?
Oh, my goodness. Well, I feel like I didn't start. Well, because when you first start yoga, I feel like your mind's running everywhere, because you're trying to focus on poses. You're trying to focus on your breathing and making sure you're doing everything properly. And sometimes it's really hard for me to check out when I step into the room.
Gotcha.
It's really hard sometimes. But I will say that over time, because of the consistency of the practice, it's helped me learn to breathe. And breathing, oh my gosh. I had no idea. I had no idea. I had no idea breathing changes the game.
There's a great book that we did for our Sangha, which is our community kind of nonprofit that Mia started. And it's called Breath, The New Science of a Lost Art by James Nestor. Wow. It's a incredible book that talks about, even like in weight loss, that 8.5 pounds of fat loss out of 10 pounds comes from your lungs.
Wow.
It releases through CO2 and water vapors. But if you think like your lungs are muscles too, like they
totally
expand and contract, and we don't use them all the way. So it's like when there's stress, like, did you release enough CO2? Like, can you exhale all the way, right? Can you find a fuller breath, right? And those kind of things we were never taught those as kids. And if you look at babies breathe in their belly, right? And then all of a sudden, kids get stressed, and if you ask a kid to take a deep breath, they suck up and breathe into their chest and suck in their belly. It's like, where did they learn that from? Where is that from? You know, because that's not, you can't breathe into 2 big balloons and make that space smaller.
Wow, I'm gonna have to look into that.
It's a great book.
It's an amazing book.
Because that's another thing. My anxiety has gone down tremendously. I remember there was a moment in my life where I was feeling really sad, and I was, you know, on antidepressants, and eventually I got off of them because I was like, oh, I can't handle this anymore.
I'm on them and they're horrible.
Yeah. It's a season kind of thing for me. Personally, I definitely felt like, oh, I needed them to get through the season that I was in. Still grateful for them. Love them so much. I support mental health all the way.
Yep.
But just being in yoga and learning how to, okay, I'm really stressed right now. I'm having so much anxiety that I just need to breathe. Just takes me from like here to here. Yeah. When normally like I would just be anxious like consistently throughout the day.
Right. Right. And even just learning that little bit about yourself, it's like what I learned about it was my anxiety is usually because of outward impressions, outward experiences that I can't control.
Oh yeah.
Right. So once I tune in, it's almost like everything else goes away. Right. And whereas a lot of times with people that have anxiety, they don't realize that all the tools are right here. They're all right here. And it's just a matter of learning how to do it. So when you were practicing yoga and you started to do it consistently, did anyone notice a change in you?
Definitely, because of dance, we were always told to record ourselves so you could watch yourself and improve. So I remember I posted on social media and I was like, okay, guys, I'm starting a yoga journey. I'm going to try and do yoga 5 days a week. Stay with me. And so I kind of had that accountability of, well, I just put it out there.
That's a really good idea.
I kind of have to like live up to it. Like, or else everyone's going to be like, you're a fake.
Right.
So I put that out there and I genuinely started doing it. And next thing I know, people are reaching out to me and they're like, where do you go? I'm kind of nervous to start. And I'm like, oh, let's do a class together. Because when someone says they're interested in doing yoga, I feel like a yogi's response is, you got to experience it firsthand with me. It's the best thing.
Exactly. And it is something, it's like when you love yoga, it's like there's this inward desire or urge to share it with people. Like we always talk about, like, have you tried yoga? Have you tried yoga? Have you tried yoga? You know, it's the same thing. Like it really is something like when you experience it wholeheartedly, sharing that with others. I love the fact that you did a 5-day social media challenge for yourself. And that is a big accountability thing.
It is. I always tell my dad, I'm like, you need a little yoga in your life because he's old. He's a little older. He did a lot of sports as well. And he just runs himself into the ground. And so I remember one night I was like, let's just stretch together.
And he liked it.
And then the next day he was like, hey, my body feels kind of good. I was like, you should do it more often. Come with me to a class.
Yeah. It is a rewiring of your brain because we are so, like you said, you know, we're so forced in like competitiveness or power, or moving forward or being the best and doing all the things that the basics of breath seem frivolous.
Oh, yes.
Right? It's like, oh, I'm just breathing. It's not a big deal.
Yeah.
But I think it's really important. So when did you notice a change off your mat? What was the biggest, like, do you have a moment that you remember that?
Ooh. I feel like it was definitely sometime either, no, okay. It was definitely last year because I started doing yoga more consistently. And I remember just wanting to try it other places so I could get as much experience as possible. But I can't remember a certain in-body moment where I was like, this is it for the rest of my life. I just remember it was just kind of a transition of I'm doing it once a week to now I'm doing it 3 days a week.
It's awesome.
And I remember the first time I experienced it not in Texas was at this lovely studio in Miami with my brother. And
is he a yogi?
He is not a yogi, but he's very open to doing anything health and wellness.
Good.
Anything health and wellness. So I took him to a yoga class, and, Miami's hot and humid, and we were both sweating. And it was just such a magical experience, though, because I think that would maybe be a turning point, because I was like, okay, now I'm actually doing it other places. That's not just my hometown.
Right.
That's how much I love it.
Yeah. That's really interesting. That's a really good point, because it is, I notice that when I go on vacation, the first thing I do is I look up where the yoga studios are.
Yeah.
First thing
Totally.
I do. And I've had some really great experiences, and I've had some really funny experiences. Like I went and took a class with a woman who had an accent, and the entire class, she was saying breast in, breast out, breast in, breast out. And I was like, I know she's trying to say breathe in, breathe out.
but all you can hear is breast. And you're like, breast, okay.
I know, the whole time. Yeah. But I think that that's part of the practice too, right? It's like, where are the distractions of the mind, and how do you settle the kind of craziness of the brain? So people started to notice it in you off your mat.
Oh, that's a good question. That is a good question. Well, okay. I have a more recent example. Obviously, I feel like internally I started noticing it in myself maybe a couple months ago, but I just visited a friend in Denver, Colorado, and we were talking and hanging out and whatnot, and I hadn't seen her for 3 years. So she moved to Denver pre-COVID. I wasn't doing yoga.
Right.
I just saw her like a week ago. This is couple years me doing yoga, and she was like, yeah, you seem a little more like calmer. You don't seem on edge a lot, because we also worked together too, so she saw me like at my worst.
Yeah. What did you do working with her?
I was stocking shelves at a very local, well-known grocery store.
Nice.
In HEB, the best one.
The best one.
The best one, where everything's better.
Is that what I've always wondered what it stands for? And Brian and I looked it up, and it's like somebody's name eventually or originally, but I do like that.
Here everything is better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so true.
Oh, it is.
It's a great grocery store.
I loved working there.
So you worked with her, and then she moved to Denver. You went out to visit her, and she's like, hey, you're so much calmer.
Yeah, because I'm like, I'm also very easygoing. I feel like I used to be kind of a control freak of planning, and everything has to go to the T. But now I'm more of like I'm gonna make a suggestion of a plan, and if it doesn't flow, that's okay. Things can change, and that's all right. But I used to be very much of like, I have to be there in like 30 minutes, and if I'm not leaving right now, then I'm gonna, just like inside your internal dialogues, like freaking out.
Yep. I set like 5 alarms.
Yeah.
That's how I get through my day.
Yeah. Oh, my Google Calendar is just filled to the brim, because it's like, okay, I'm going to do yoga, and then I'm going to go walk the dog, and it's like small things.
Yeah. But you also do modeling too.
I do, yes. I just got signed with an agency in New York.
No way.
Congrats.
Thank you so much. And when I just say, I've been fighting for that for a long time. And when I was in Miami doing my yoga and stuff in November, I was super dedicated to getting signed in like Miami, because I thought that's where I fit in. But then I just kind of like let that go, and I was like, I'm just gonna work towards my goal, because I'm still kind of doing yoga, and then like my mindset is like shifting. But they reached out to me. They found me and scouted me and said, hey Maddie, are you signed? We would love to like FaceTime, meet you. Got signed with them and met them in New York. They've been so helpful on my modeling journey, and just amazing. Everything I could have ever wanted.
That's
and
very cool.
Speaking of that kind of gets into another thing, is I had a very specific body image I thought I had to maintain when I was dancing, and then also modeling, because I was like, oh, I have to be a size 0. None of these girls, like my measurements are too big. I need to change.
You're freaking tall though. How tall are you?
I'm 5'9".
I mean, you're tall.
Yeah. Oh, I love my height. I do love my height. I will say that. But in Miami, I was like, you know what? I'm going to embrace my curves, you know, because I'm a curvy girl. I'm going to start embracing it, because stop trying to change who you are. Why are you trying so hard to be somebody else that you're not? There's a market out there for all kinds of women, petite women, curvy women, street models, you name it, it's out there. And so I always encourage people when they say, I want to model, but I'm not tall enough, I'm not skinny enough. I'm like, go for it. You don't know who's out there. You don't know who's watching. Just follow your dreams and keep pushing. But I kind of let go of the idea of I had to look a certain way. And once I did, they found me. And I was like, wow, that's amazing. When you start loving yourself truly, like everything kind of just falls into place.
It really does. I mean, even the fact of like the energy that you put out is the energy you get back. And a lot of times it is that when you're holding on to something for no apparent reason. And when you release that, things come.
Oh, they do. They really do.
That's very cool. So have you always wanted to be in modeling?
Yes. Yes. My grandma always tells me that when I was little, I would tell her, don't worry, Grandma, I'm going to be a model and you can come live in my mansion in California. I apparently told her that, and she likes to talk about it sometimes. That's so
cute.
So, you know, and I did start pursuing it in like freshman year of high school, maybe 8th grade. So it's been very consistent for me. And that's another thing that I've learned through yoga is trusting the process. Because, you know, you're not going to get your headstand the first time. So it's like the same with other aspects of your life, is trusting the process and knowing it's a journey. You'll get there eventually. You'll get your headstand. You'll get whatever, as long as you keep up, like putting in the work.
It's so true. It's so true.
What do you think other people can take from your story and your experience with yoga?
There's so many different aspects. I don't know.
You can tell us them all. No worries.
Okay. Let's see. Where do I begin? Oh my gosh, I love this question. Have you seen that TikTok trend?
No. Oh, wait. Like very recently.
Like super recent.
Yeah.
Like within a month. There's an audio going around and they go, oh my goodness, I love this question. That's awesome. Me right now.
It is me right now.
I love this question.
It is. It's a good question.
Wow. Okay. Something people can take away from my journey and experience. Well, if you're a retired athlete, retired athlete or current athlete, I highly recommend yoga because of the headspace it can put you in and how you can be kinder to yourself, more loving to yourself. Just that alone. Don't even worry about your performance. Take it more for a mental thing. And I would say also going from a lot of high intensity workouts to just kind of low intensity, low impact, but just know that you're still getting a workout in.
Oh yeah.
You might not be doing like 20 jumping jacks like every 5 minutes like you would in another class that's at high intensity, or slamming dumbbells, but you're still getting it in. You're still putting in the work and the breath and the movement, and you're getting what you need. Your body's still getting what you need. So I feel like some people don't consider it a workout,
right?
Just because
they think it's stretching.
Yeah, yeah. Like, oh, I'm gonna go to a yoga class and stretch. And I'm like, okay, well, go to like a heated vinyasa and let me know how that goes.
Exactly. Good luck with that.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
not that. Well, and I did want to ask you too, as far as like with modeling and like body image and like and dancing and competitiveness, with yoga, how did that make you see your body?
So I definitely have I've gained more, I wouldn't say gained more weight, but my body has changed. My body has definitely changed. And so I was being told, in dance, like, oh, you're not toned enough. And I was skinny. I was so skinny because I was doing cardio 5 days a week.
Right.
And so I never thought I was enough. But then slowing down and doing yoga and seeing other people, because I think that's another misconception people have is like, oh, thinner people or fitter people do yoga, and it's kind of
rich white women.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
And it's not like that. It's not like that at all. And so going from a practice of trying the same mindset of, trying to be better, do better, be better, look better, to a different kind of practice where it's slow down, take your time, enjoy the journey. It makes you also internally appreciate your body for what it does. Like the beginning where it's like having a moment of gratitude, breathing, and then finishing and, closing it out, hand, heart center. It really does make me go like, wow, I'm so thankful for my legs, instead of being like, oh, I wish my legs weren't this size.
Right. That's a mindset shift, right? It's an appreciation for the vessel.
Yes.
Rather than a comparison to other vessels.
Oh, yes. Oh, and that's the biggest thing too, because I always tell people I did competitive Irish dance. It wasn't a hobby. It wasn't for funsies. I traveled the world. I went to London. I went to Ireland, world championships, national championships.
Wow.
It was great, but it was also very like, I got to be better than this girl right here that I'm competing with, right? Like we're dancing on the same stage, doing two different dances, and I need to show off and be better and shine brighter and look better and smile and have the whole thing. But now when you're on your mat and you're solo, it's just you. It's just you and your practice, and that's it.
Yeah.
So are you going to like who you are, or are you going to hate yourself?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like that idea of the practice on and off the mat, right? Like when I noticed a change, it was like more about the way that I was carrying myself, right? The way I was speaking internally to myself. It's almost like you shed a lot of bullshit and you start to really kind of get into, hey, I'm not a bad person.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I can move my body. So what have been some of the highlights? Like we always ask our listeners we like to ask our guests this question of, did you ever have a moment in class where it was like this aha moment, whether it was, I finally got into this pose and I'm feeling amazing, or, you're crying, you're bawling your eyes out in half pigeon.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Do you have an experience?
Oh, yes. Because when I've heard, I don't know if this is true, but a lot of your trauma lies in your hips.
Yep.
Yes.
So basically every cell in your body can hold on to feelings, emotions, and memories.
Wow.
Where they tend to land and stick is heart space and hips.
Oh,
yeah.
That explains why I love fish pose.
Yep.
That explains why I love fish. And, but yeah, I do remember when I started doing yoga more consistently. This was, I'd probably say a year ago. Actually, no, I wouldn't say it wasn't consistently. I would say it was I was using it as like recovery.
Right.
Just like a yin practice. And so I just remember my hips were so tight because all I was doing was high intensity workouts and strength training, deadlifting, squatting, all that. Right. And I just remember being in a heated yin class. I was also going through something pretty hard breakup at the time. And I was just sitting there. And I just started sobbing. I started sobbing, and we're in half pigeon, of course. We're in half pigeon, and I just genuinely felt like this release. And I was like, you know what? I needed that, and I need more of this. I need more of whatever that is, because I want to feel these feelings. I don't want to like keep them stored in my hips any longer. I want to let them go.
Right.
And so there was definitely a aha moment probably like a year ago of just, wow, this is more than what I think it is. Yeah,
it really is. And it's, I've had like grown men sobbing in half pigeon before in the middle of class. And you're like, as a yoga teacher, you're like, oh God, at first, like, what am I doing? But then you recognize like, this is energetic release. Oh, yeah. Right. And that's why you've taken my class before. At the end of class, I always have you throw a silent temper tantrum.
That's my favorite part. At first I was a little shy, but now that I know what to expect, I go for it like full time. Every time. I'll feel like I'm just gonna.
It's the best because like right before, so basically what I do is right before Shavasana, I have you take a like silent temper tantrum moment and just kick and flail your arms and your legs, shake out your head, because toddlers when they're upset and they can't work through their anger, they have temper tantrums.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of times where we have excess energy that we're holding on to that we may not know.
Yeah.
And just getting that release of throwing a silent temper tantrum and then flopping down on your mat for Shavasana, you get that vibration. You get that settling, you know? And it sometimes for me, especially with my ADHD, it helps me out a lot.
I was going to say, thank you for sharing your story.
I know. I really thank you for coming and sharing your story.
Yes. Thank you for letting me.
I want to hear, so I know that you said in the beginning you're a jack of trade, right? Like, so you like to try and dabble in all the different things.
Yes.
So why don't you tell our listeners kind of a little bit about what you're doing right now and where you want to see yourself go?
Nice. Good question. I always dream big. I always dream very big. My name's Maddie Fest. Maddie, like growing up, my nickname was Maddie Fest Destiny. Like the Manifest Destiny.
Oh my gosh.
Travel West.
I love
Gold
that.
mine. So I've always thought to myself, you know, if you don't dream big, you're never going to achieve big.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have many things that I want to achieve within time. But I would say I'm working with a company right now, a media company, and I'm really trying to hone in on skills that I can learn and develop within the media company. Because
You can name the media company. I'm fine with that.
Growhouse Media.
Yeah.
Follow us.
Yes.
Growhouse Media. And so I'm trying to, learn all the ins and outs. I want to learn like as much information as I can. So that's like one little sector of my life. Obviously yoga is just consistent with my life. And I eventually would love to do YTT.
Okay.
I definitely want to become a teacher at some point. Don't know when. It's going to happen.
Yep.
Like I said, it's a journey.
Yeah, it's a journey. That's
It's a
true.
journey. So no time limit on it. I just know I just want to do that. And then also modeling. Modeling, I really want to harness the opportunity that I have being signed with a New York agency and do everything in my power that I can to achieve the goals that I have set for that. So I definitely want to make some moves in the future, whether it be moving or, just really honing in on my craft and trying to be the best out there is, I know it's competitor mindset again.
No, it's
but
fine.
when it's more of like a personal goal, I feel like I have this goal and I really, really want to achieve it, and I'm going to do anything I can to make it happen.
What does that look like? What does that goal look like? Is that you up on a billboard in Times Square?
Well, I feel like it's multiple things for me because modeling, like I said, I want people to look at me and I want them to see a symbol of hope. I want them to see a person of inspiration, a person they can be like, wow, she did it. I remember when she was in high school, just taking senior photos for random photographers. And now look, she's in New York. Yeah. If she can do it, I can do it too. And so I definitely want to be a symbol of hope, but billboards, I have multiple brands that I really, really want to work with. I want to work for like MAC Makeup or Milk Makeup, or Silky and California. There's like a lot of people on my list that I have that I'm waiting to check off.
So how does it work? Because like you're in San Antonio, New York is the agency. Do they send you jobs and then you go and do you have to go like fly to go and interview and all that type of stuff, or castings, I guess is what they're called?
So you can either do an online casting, and not all of them are in New York. They can even send me jobs here in Texas, or they can send me jobs in LA too, but it'll be like an inquiry and I can accept it or I cannot accept it. And basically it's up to the casting director, obviously, if they want me or not. But just having that middle bridge of someone who can get me the opportunity that I probably couldn't get
on your own,
freelancing or like doing it by myself.
Yeah. And I bet you too, it's hard like my daughter does theater. So like if she doesn't get a part, you're trying out for things, you're going to casting calls and you don't get it.
Yeah.
Like how have you been able to kind of handle all that?
Well, since I feel like I'm in a new ballpark now, because before it was me just booking my own jobs, because I kind of developed a name for myself in San Antonio and Austin. So I've worked with many brands. I've worked with like MyOL, their probiotic soda. They're great. I've worked with J Prime Steakhouse, just like gigs that I've gotten myself.
That's awesome.
But now I'm working with big name brands, and I'm working with people that I have the opportunity to be in front of. And so you get this inquiry for like something you see at Sephora and you're like, oh my gosh, could you imagine if I got that job?
Mm-hmm.
And then like that's where my patience comes in, and I have to, think about it. I'm like, okay, it's okay if you don't get this one.
Yeah.
There's the next one.
Yeah.
And then the next one, and then the next one. And so I think being in modeling, you have to be resilient. You have to be so resilient.
Yeah. I don't know how you can do that. I mean, because it's such a personal thing. It's like they're looking at your body.
Yeah.
Right. And your eyes and what they see. So the experience or the interpretation, and then having to not hold on to that as the model and saying like, well, I didn't work in that spot. That doesn't mean that I'm not
worthy.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean I'm not worthy of that. It just means I'm not what they were looking for at that time. And that's another thing about modeling too, is there's seasons where all they're looking for is blondes, or there's a season where they don't want blondes at all. They are not looking for blondes. And I think that's another thing I try to remind myself too, is it's okay. It's not a personal attack.
Yes.
It's just what they're not looking for, and that's okay. But somebody wants my look.
Yes.
Eventually. I don't know who.
Yes. But you got an agency that's going to help you out with it, which is awesome.
Yes.
It's exciting.
I'm so excited.
I'm just really impressed with the fact that you've only been practicing for a year of yoga, and there's been such amazing shifts in your life that have happened because of it.
Yeah.
And just the way that you carry yourself and the way that you walk, you are an inspiration. You are hope, and you are somebody that I can't wait to see more of.
Oh, thank you.
Especially on your mat.
Thank you. You guys are amazing teachers for sure. And I really appreciate when I can step into a class and know that I'm going to be going through 60 minutes of a whole like in-body, outer body experience. And you guys do a wonderful job of flowing, and, not taking yourself too seriously too is what I really like too. Because I remember the first time I was in a class and a yoga teacher just made like a casual joke, and I was like, we're not just breathing and making it serious. And they were like, you guys can laugh. Like, it's not that serious. And I'm like, you're right. It isn't that serious.
Yeah, it's true. Especially like going through the process of becoming a yoga teacher and finding like your voice, that's a really difficult thing. And, there's a lot of that imposter syndrome. There's a lot of that doubt. There's a lot of that, like trying to be something that you may not be in yourself. And I have to kind of plan out like, okay, for my anxiety, like I write everything out. I practice everything in the body, make sure that I understand where I want them to go. And then what's that driving force? What's that theme or that one little nugget I wanted you to take with you? Like I try to make it a holistic look,
right?
And Mia, I feel, doesn't have to do as much of that because she has a lot more of that off the cuff. But you plan all your classes. I know that.
I do remember one class. There was one class that I really, really enjoyed of yours, Mia, and it was I had brought like 6 of my friends too, so all my friends were around me too.
Was it the full moon?
It was the full moon class, and I think you said something like at the beginning of it, like I'm just gonna feed off y'all's energy. Oh, maybe it wasn't you. It was just like I'm gonna see how the energy is, and then next thing we're all sitting and we're talking, and it feels kind of like the sigh of relief when everybody says their name and what they're letting go of, because it's a judgment-free zone for real. And I really hope people know that when you're stepping onto the mat, nobody cares if you fall. Nobody cares if you can't hold the pose, if you can't get bow, if you can't get dancer pose. Nobody cares. It's all about you and what you can do for yourself. And I genuinely felt that in that class, because I feel like at the beginning when everybody said, hi, my name is so-and-so, and today I'm releasing this, it kind of left that anxiety at the door, and everyone felt okay to just go through the practice. And so that was another like aha moment that was like recently that I was like, oh, this is exactly what I needed.
It's that union. It's that bringing people together. I think that's really cool. Yeah. And it's just, walking into a space, like I get super nervous before I teach every single class. Like I'm a bundle of nerves inside, and I recognize that as like, that's my strength. Like that's something that's telling me I'm headed the right way.
Oh yeah. For sure.
You know,
For
like
sure.
when I'm nervous.
Because you
like,
care. It just
yeah.
means you care.
Yeah.
A lot.
Exactly. Exactly. All right. So where can our listeners find you? Give us all the stuff.
All the stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You can like Instagram and stuff?
Yeah. All of it.
My Instagram is MadisonFest, MadisonFest. You can follow me on TikTok, MaddieFest Destiny.
Nice.
Those are the primary platforms that I use. Yeah, that's all I use.
Perfect.
But thank you guys for having me on this podcast.
Thank you for being a guest. Thank you for sharing your story. And we will definitely check back in with you soon because, you know, yoga changes daily. It changes all the time. So there's probably going to be another shift that we would love to hear from you about.
And I would love to be featured.
Yes.
That'd be amazing.
Good.
Thank you guys.
Good. Thank you. Maddie Fest Destiny.
Don't you wish a cute nickname?
I know, right? Don't you wish that was your name growing up? I mean, that would have been the coolest name.
No, absolutely. Absolutely.
That was really nice talking to Maddie. I mean, just the fact that she's young, she's capable, she's got so much that she's interested in, and she just wants to grow and learn. And I think that listening to her, especially talk about dance and competitiveness and her background, you know, yoga to me really has been the glue for her. That's what she's needed.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because so often we interview people and we hear about how they found yoga in college or in high school. And then here we're interviewing someone who is in college and experiencing yoga. And I mean, I think we all think it, feel it, say it like, oh, I wish I had found yoga sooner. And I just feel like Maddie is at this, you know, very transitional point in her life, and she's able to utilize yoga to help guide it, which is exciting and a blessing and just like beautiful to witness.
It really is. And like the fact that when you're a model, you know, your whole job is the way that you look on the outside, right? It's not about your personality that much. It's not about what you bring to the table besides the fact that you bring a hot body or a hot look or a specific look that people are looking for. And to have to go through like rejection or, you know, the feeling of, am I worthy enough all the time just by your outer appearance, that's hard because outer appearances don't last forever.
Yeah, and I think she also experienced that potentially with dance. I mean, always being judged and critiqued and ranked, you know, that's a very tough, you know, space to be in.
Absolutely. I found that what I thought was really cool was that her friends kind of not noticed that she was calmer. She wasn't on edge as much. She said her anxiety was better. You know, she just started to kind of fall into this practice of yoga that she put the work in and she trusted the process.
Yeah, I think that's what I heard. A huge theme was that yoga gave her that ability to pause and to slow down. I think it makes sense. When you're able to slow down, you are able to evaluate kind of where you're at and where you want to be going. And I think that's kind of what she's been able to do for herself.
You and I picked Yoga Sutra 1.14. Practice takes time, patience, and a positive attitude. Patience, devotion, and faith. And when we're not in a state of yoga, right, when we're not calm, when we're not present moment, when we're not breathing and aware of how we are reacting and responding, not only on the outside, but inside, the mind is attracted by the external world, right? We get distracted. And that is the root of our suffering, right? The comparison, the contractions, the look at this person, what they're achieving. But when the consequences kind of lay within, that's the practice of yoga. That's when
Definitely.
when we stop comparing ourselves to others, when we stop holding a bar up that we think we need to jump over or that others think we need to achieve. You know, we need to be comfortable in how we move every day through life. And one way to do that is to sit, give yourself a moment and breathe and just, how am I feeling? How's my body feeling, right? Am I tired? Am I tense? Is my mind racing? Am I worried?
Yeah. And I think you can see that even translate into her professional life, right? Like she talked about kind of striving for this model look that you talked about, or I think also the stereotypical model look of, rail thin, whatnot. And when she kind of leaned into just being herself, she calls herself a curvy girl, like leaning into just what she brings to the table and trusting that everything that followed was more than she could have ever expected, or more than she had originally expected, which is exciting, right? To show up as yourself and to trust that process and to be guided by your true nature, rather than striving for someone else's expectations or striving for societal expectations, and to be rewarded for that. I hope that feels rewarding for her, because like witnessing it, I was like, amen. Like,
Seriously.
how beautiful to be rewarded for being yourself, because that's how it should be. Like, I think when you show up as yourself and it's with authenticity, and because I know you kind of mentioned, and I'm sure it looks this way, right? Like we definitely judge models from the outside, and in a lot of ways that's how they're chosen. But I do think sometimes, whether people, I'm sure, like, casting directors, whether they can pick up on it, or, whether they know that this is what they're picking up on, I'm sure they pick up on, is this person comfortable? Is this person showing up as themselves? Or are they like pushing themselves to this insane edge to be something that they're not?
Oh, yeah.
And so now that she's showing up as herself, all these things that are flowing, right? She's been signed, she's flying out to New York and to all these other cities to do the thing that she loves and is very excited by, and has been working at, since middle school, and people making fun of her and being like, why does she think she can do this? Like,
Yeah, absolutely.
A beautiful, beautiful thing to witness.
No, I agree with you completely. And I feel like that, she says it very clearly, loving yourself. And then it came to her, like until she truly loved herself. And, I think that we do have these boxes that we think we need to fit into, whether we want to be a model or a professor or an actress or, a construction worker. We have all these different ideals of what that looks like, what that should be like for them, or what kind of skill sets I need to have, or what kind of attitude I need to have. And instead, it's like, what if we just trusted that if we're patient and we are working from the inside out, right? And really leading with like, what creates that excitement inside of me? When do I get the most excited about something? And remember that excitement and nerves run on that same frequency. So when you start to get nervous, you can probably turn that into excitement if that's something that is truly your heart's desire. And, trying to fit into these different boxes, like forever we thought that models had to be rail thin, right? And then something happened, something changed. I couldn't tell you because I'm not, like a historian, but it feels like when women started to embrace who they were and stop taking this single route of skinny, thin, unhealthy model, right? We can have skinny and thin models, right? There are people out there that are skinny and thin. They're not going to be curvy. Great. But now we have curvy, and now we have normal, and now we have beautiful in a different way, because there's that light behind their eyes, right?
And I think that's kind of the beauty of a practice like yoga. It, for a lot of us, gives you a space to slow down. Even in very intensive practices, I think the repetition allows you to get out of your mind and into your body. The repetition gives you that space to kind of observe how you're responding to stimuli, right? Whether that's when difficult things, how do I respond? When things are mundane, how do I respond? When things are routine, how do I respond? When they're unexpected, how do I respond? I think that's kind of what that pause is, right? It's a space where you can be introspective about your life, this practice, how you're showing up, and how you want to show up. Practice on the mat, what you want to take off the mat. And I think that's what she's done beautifully.
Totally. I mean, if you really look at people on their mats, you can kind of tell what kind of personalities they have off their mats. We've talked about this a little bit before, but when you see someone who is like really focused on like where their feet are, where their arms are, and if you say a cue, you can actually see the muscle twitch happen in their body. It's like they're in tune, they're focused, right? Then you can see someone who's like gazing all around and is like trying to look like the person next to them, and they're up in their head and they're all frustrated. And then you see someone who's like flailing themselves around on the mat, or just someone that's standing there because they have no clue what to do. You know, there's all these different reactions to the stimuli on their mat. And then learning about how they can deal with that trickles off their mat. I know that for me, going through teacher training and understand how to communicate clearer, right? I have 15,000 different little offshoots of my conversations that can happen. I go on tangents. I can't get the stories right. Yoga's helped me, especially from a cueing standpoint, is to be able to direct action and energy in a body better. And I noticed that after I started teacher training and I started writing out my cues and understanding the body muscles and the activation I wanted, that when I would be at my house and my kids were being assholes, I would be able to direct them to stop or to change the attitude or move forward or get a task accomplished faster, because I was taking a beat, you know, taking a moment, and it just kind of started to just integrate.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know if Maddie is aware of this, but when she is practicing, in comparison to a lot of students, she closes her eyes a lot. She's focusing on her own practice. She has very strong drishti practice. Like, she has a very clear focus for her gaze when her eyes are open.
Totally.
And I think that's reflective of that this is a time and practice for herself.
Have you ever done a practice blindfolded before?
Blindfolded, no. Both my eyes closed, yes.
I had to do a practice one time blindfolded. And now, obviously, we knew the sequence. So for listeners out there, if you know how to do sun salutation A, right, any version of it, blindfold yourself and repeat a few sun salutations on your mat. You'll be surprised at how much your body will kind of assimilate to that one sense lost and put more effort into the other senses, like your breath and your present moment awareness. No, I really enjoyed talking to Maddie. She said she's a jack of all trades. And what I appreciated about that comment that she made was she didn't say, and master of none, right? Because it wasn't about the mastering for her. It was about the learning. Like, I want to be around people and culture and language. I want to learn from other people. I want to embrace other things, but I still feel like she knows in her own heart that she has the capabilities, and she feels really solid in her, you know, self-awareness.
Yeah. Well, Maddie, thank you for sharing your story with us.
Yes.
It was a pleasure. I love having students on the podcast. It's always cool to see that progression in their story.
Absolutely. I know it's funny because, like, talking to students, it's like this fresh, passionate viewpoint, vantage point, because most of them have just experienced that. Whoa, you know, like when I really do slow down, like athletes. And even yesterday, I was watching a football game, and one of the announcers was talking about how one of the players was having trouble with his spine. He was doing downward facing dog and on the sidelines, and the announcer started laughing about it. And I said, are you kidding me? Like, he's actually embracing what he knows works in his body. And when athletes start to embrace yoga, they do get rid of a lot of the head game that they end up in, because they are able to tune out the external world and tune into their gifts and their talents to show up the best for them. That stuff just drives me crazy sometimes. So I think that it's neat that Maddie said, athletes pay attention, retired athletes pay attention. Yoga is a practice for you. So if you're out there listening, try yoga.
Thanks for taking this time to spend it with myself, Adrienne, and Maddie through this beautiful, beautiful podcast that we've loved putting together. If you're interested in sharing your story, we are now doing recording days and would love to schedule some time with you. You can reach out to us through yogachanged@gmail.com or just send us a message on Instagram. We tend to be able to respond there too. As always, if you have any questions, any feedback, I know that certain podcast apps allow you to leave it there, but you can also send it to us. It just won't be as anonymous when you DM it to it, but that's no issue. We don't attach any judgment to it. Thank you for listening. Monday, you will see and hear a follow-up episode themed around this conversation with Maddie, and we look forward to sharing it with you. Bye, yogis.
Thanks for listening.